After our first guest house network new old character Meryl Ironheart, who ended up being Vault, we now get our new in-network of old version of Claudia Stormeye. But this time, she's still physical and comes with an additional revolver alongside her sword. So, is this new version of Claudia strong, and how do you play her? Let's jump right in and find out. Claudia's shatter is 16 and her charge is 14. Both are at good values, but in practice, both are quite mediocre. However, the physical team, as usual, don't need charge and she's rarely on the field anyways, so none of this matters. Claudia's weapon, Scarlet Gale, can serve both as a main DPS and a sub DPS, but performs best as a sub DPS buffer. The bulk of her DPS comes from the passive damage that triggers every few seconds and gained after using her skill, making her a very simple character to use. Claudia's sword and gun is a physical flame weapon with the passives Armor Dissolve, Fizz Flame Fusion, both physical and flame resonance, and Swift Cut, which deals damage after discharges. All similar to previous weapons with the same effects, which I won't elaborate on anymore. Regarding her basic attacks, since Claudia's main damage comes from the passive triggered after skill cast, her basic attacks all have relatively low multipliers, but is sufficient enough for her to be used as a main DPS if without any other options. Next, we have the branch attack triggered by holding after a basic attack, where Claudia does a jumping, spinning slash. It does decent damage, but as usual, is irrelevant as just spamming left click does more. Claudia also gets an aimable hold attack where she shoots at the target with her revolver when you let go of the attack button. Yes, I gotta explain that one to the Fizz players, as this is the first time for Fizz to get an aimable weapon, besides the SR Biling of course. Very handy to draw aggro or those pesky crystals in the air at the Chiron join-up. Finally, Claudia's aerial plunge attack is just another mobility tool as usual. This time, it's a pretty fast Rubelia-like horizontal descent. The landing sound is also a very satisfying thud, but that's about it. Claudia's dodge attacks are divided into directional and non-directional types, dealing a bit more damage for the directional variant where she does a sliding kick. The non-directional back dodge attack, however, can continue shooting more bullets if you don't let go of the attack button, which is a pretty cool mechanic. But again, none of these dodge attacks are relevant unless you're trying to trigger Yemiel's passive feathers or something, where the dodge hold attack is capable of consuming 2 feathers in 1 volley. Claudia's skill does a fancy dash behind the enemy, runs and shoots in a semicircle, and finally a slash at the end to finish it all off. A super long but cool looking animation that, funnily enough, can be entirely skipped if you just swapped off her weapon. Yes, all the damage still goes through regardless. This interaction here basically means that you should always cancel her skill animation by either swapping or jumping, making her optimal meta team field time less than a second per rotation. Finally, Claudia's discharge skill functions like all the other weapons by clearing negative effects, dealing damage, granting some iframes. Not relevant at all in the meta rotation without additional effects, so we should always jump cancel it. It's a shame because the animation itself is actually quite good. Let's move on to Claudia's stars. The 1-star effect looks really weird and short with all the numbers, but it just means that the passive damage from the skill triggers 3 times instead of 2 times per rotation now. A 50% increase in her personal damage from the passive, which is decently significant. Get this star if you can, but don't force it. The 3-star effect applies a debuff that slows targets hit by 20% for 4 seconds when your skill passive triggers, but more importantly, this also applies a massive 400% damage per second dot effect. More free damage as always is nice, and 3 stars is a good stopping point if you can get it. The 5-star effect is your typical survival star again, where you heal a quarter of your HP, which is now every 5 seconds after skill cast because of the 1-star effect. You can also heal double the amount, 50% of max HP, if you are below half health. Finally, the 6-star effect as usual is just a straightforward damage boost increase on her skill for whales. Nothing else really needs to be said here, get it if you can afford to chase leaderboards. Now, let's take a look at our matrices. The 2-piece set simply increases physical attack, and the exclusive effect of the 2-piece set is a 1000% multiplier bump to her Blade of Unity skill passive. Pretty standard stuff, nothing needs to be said here. The permanent 4-piece set effect is a simple all-elemental damage buff, which is pretty good, but rather low at low stars. Her exclusive effect is a whopping 22% final damage though, which makes these matrices kind of dependent on having her weapon equipped, or else you would lose half your damage buffs at max stars or 2/3 at 0. Not that great for the long term in my opinion. In terms of simulacra trait, all physical teams using Claudia's weapon should use Claudia's trait. Until something better comes around, a 30% generic physical damage buff on top of the usual 18% final damage is better than any other trait available for physical teams. For Relic Selection, since Claudia's skill cooldown and optimal rotation is 20 seconds, the best main relic to use is Buff Dealer at 5 stars. For the second relic, Overdrive Shot is best for short form content, and the other usual suspects of Tholastic Heart, Bubble Gun, Mask, or Control Gun should all work for long form content. For the free-to-play without Battle Pass relics, just stick to Quant and Shield or Rift. Claudia's weapon is dead simple to use. All you need to do is start with her and cast her skill, and then swap off to the next buffer or the main DPS. When used as the main DPS, you should also start with her skill, swap to the other buffers, and then swap back to her for main DPS, doing basic attacks and wait for her cooldowns to come off before you rotate and repeat the process. Here's a quick demonstration of the Matrices team consisting of Claudia, Nola, and Anka in action, where Anka is the main DPS. First, start with Claudia's skill. Then as soon as her animation goes off, you switch to Nola and use her skill. The moment her skill goes off on cooldown, you switch to Anka and use her skill. Hold if need be, and land the stage 2 skill. Then proceed with the Anka main DPS rotation of directional dodge attack, basic attack until the 4th hit, where she twirls her bat in front, to cancel with another directional dodge attack, all the way until Claudia's skill is coming off cooldown. Switch back to Claudia, skill again, and rinse and repeat, making sure to jump cancel every discharge along the way. And that's it for her rotation. The same logic can be applied to every other physical weapon since the Fizz team is dead simple to play. Basically buff with 2 weapons, main DPS with a 3rd, spamming basic attacks, and that's it. Finally, let's talk about other Claudia teams for those players that don't have Anka and are waiting for Void Piercer coming next patch, or new players still getting by with standard weapons. We start off with Claudia as the main DPS weapon. For buffing or off-field DPS weapons, the best choices are Nola and then Asuka, but any buffing weapon can be a good alternative, like Nyan, Zeke, Plotty, Fiona, Ganona, Umi, Lin, Lyra, Claudia, or Tsubasa. Just pick any 2 from the list and you're good to go. For Matrices setups, again, the most optimal is everyone using their own 4-set Matrices. But if you don't have other limited Matrices and only pull for Claudia 4-piece, you want to put her 4-piece on any weapon that's not the main DPS, since the Matrices effects work completely in the background. If you didn't pull for a 4-piece, any background Matrices from the below list can be put on your 2 background weapons, 2+2-piece altered, Anka, Asuka, Plotty, Yemyao, Zeke, Faisa, Liuho, Ganono, Lan, Umi, Ana, Scylla, Habola, or Shiro. For the main DPS weapon, you should use your typical main DPS setup of 2-piece Lyra plus 2-piece Amir. Alternative 2 pieces include any relevant 2-piece limited, or Shiro, Crow, Cobalt, Habo, or Scylla. Claudia is a simple yet effective background damage dealer and buffer, with decent main DPS potential. However, her limited field time and meta rotations means her cool animations rarely get the spotlight they deserve. Will you pull for this simplistic character, or are you saving for Altered Void Piercer coming up? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more updates. Good luck and have fun with your pulls.